Today, we're going to be looking at the powers of Congress. So, what Congress can actually do, what they are allowed to do based on what is stated in the Constitution. Expressed powers. These are powers that are explicitly listed in Article 1, Section 8, and elsewhere in the Constitution. So, the Constitution specifically says Congress can do these things. That is what an expressed power is. Financing powers, the power to raise money through levying taxes and borrowing money. So, this is something that the Congress did not have under the Articles of Confederation. So, it was very important for, under the new Constitution, for Congress to have this power so that our government can have money to function. So, there's different ways for the government to get money. There is an indirect tax. This is a tax levied on one person but passed to another for payment to the government. And so this examples of this in gasoline, liquor, or airline tickets, it's where the seller includes the price of the tax in the product. So when you go and you pay, $5.50 for gas, in that gas price, there is a gas tax that's already included, and then it gets sent to the government for road improvements or whatever the gas tax pays for. A direct tax is a tax an individual pays directly to the government. So the 16th Amendment established a graduated income tax. So this is based on how much money a person pays. The government determines this is the amount of money of taxes you owe the government. So every April 15th, that's the due date, people have to file their taxes. So they have to figure out if they didn't pay enough taxes during the year from payroll taxes or if they get a refund. So if they already paid the government too much money, then the government gives back their money. And so, yes, being an adult and having to pay taxes is not fun, but taxes pay for a lot of things that I think as US citizens we appreciate, like our military, defense, things like police force, firefighters, road improvements, infrastructure, education. So there are a lot of things that our taxes pay for that sometimes I think people forget about. Borrowing money allows the government to function in a deficit. And so deficit spending has become the norm and is no longer reserved for emergencies. So basically, we borrow money. And so our government has been in debt for years and years and years and continues to. The national debt just grows and grows. That is a concern issue for people, but it's been like that for quite some time. Commerce power. Congress has the right to regulate interstate and foreign trade, as it is vital to the welfare of the nation as is the taxing power. So the Commerce Clause proved to be responsible for the building of a strong nation. The clause was used in the court case Gibbon v. Ogden to help limit a monopoly for a steamship line. So we need to be able to regulate what types of things are being sold either between states, coming in from other countries, and that is a big power for Congress to have. So some of the limits on the commerce power: we cannot tax exports, so goods that are being sold elsewhere, cannot favor the ports of one state over those of another in regulation of trade, cannot require that vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties to another. And back then, it was stated that Congress could not interfere with the slave trade until 1808. Defense powers. So Congress has the power to declare war. So congressional declarations of war sends a strong message to enemy nations. The president has been able to make war without Congress declaring war. So World War II was the last time that the U.S. Congress declared war on another nation, but we have sent troops since then to other nations. We find kind of loopholes with this. After Johnson sent troops to Vietnam during the 1960s, Congress passed the War Powers Act. It was the power to restrict the use of American forces in combat areas where a state of war does not exist. Congress also has the power to create an army. Congress shares the power to maintain a militia with the states. So each state has its own National Guard that Congress helps to oversee. Other powers. Coinage power, so the power to coin and print money, that belongs to Congress. Um, Organizing the National Postal Service, the United States Postal Service, USPS, that runs under Congress. Copyrights and patents. Congress has the power to write copyright and patent laws. So if you invent something and you want to get a copyright or get a patent for it, that would be under Congress. Weights and measures, standardizing weights and measures. So like what system we're using, we weigh things in pounds and ounces, measure things in inches and feet and miles. Bankruptcy, so they make laws on bankruptcy. Naturalization, they establish a uniform rule of naturalization, a path to citizenship. And the federal courts. Congress established federal courts beneath the Supreme Court. So, non legislative powers. So, these are powers common to both houses. Congress can propose amendments to the Constitution. They can conduct investigations, issue subpoenas requiring a person to testify. And so, these investigations can range anywhere from what politicians are doing, what companies are doing. I think recently there was an investigation into Facebook and what's that called? The how they're gathering information. So they definitely have the power to look into lots of issues. They are also responsible for the impeachment process, confirmation of presidential nominations to fill vacant presidential seats. Powers of the House, they can choose a president if no candidate gets a majority. And so this happened in the election of 1800 and 1824. Powers of the Senate, they can approve executive and judicial appointments and can also approve treaties. So, changing power of Congress. So, the necessary and proper clause gives Congress the express power to make laws that are necessary and proper to exercise express power. So, this kind of gives them the expressed power to then make laws that they need to basically do their job. So if they don't necessarily have this power, they can make a law to ensure that they have it. And again, it's just one of those things that the Constitution built in, realizing that as we grow as a nation and as we go into the future, things may change. What Congress needs to do may change. And so giving them that flexibility to allow for them to continue to do their job. So during the Depression, Congress responded by passing far-reaching laws like Social Security. After World War II, Congress created the U.S. Air Force and the CIA. To keep up with the Soviets, Congress created NASA. Congress delegated some of its powers to these federal agencies, and a lot of them still have funding power, and they still have funding power over these agencies. So these are just the majority of the powers of Congress. So you want to make sure you go back, fill in your key terms for the words that have been in red. We will be having a key term quiz coming up in a little bit. So make sure you're keeping up with your key terms.